Rachel, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm already having a good time, so I hope the rest of you are too. I love the venue, fantastic setup, so it's a real pleasure to have the chance to talk to you. What I want to talk to you today, this morning, about is games. And my background, I studied computer science. I now work here in Zurich. I have a dual role at Disney Research and ETH Zurich. And kind of the story I want to tell today started about 10 years ago when I helped create a new course at ETH called the Game Programming Laboratory. And the concept here was a bit crazy at the time, which was to say, hey, can we use games to really better teach computer science to our students? That was the real idea. And we met some resistance because many people had this view that, well, games are fun. Some people think they're only for entertainment. Some people think they even have a very negative influence. So we started this experiment to see, can we take everything that the students learn in the kind of core computer science and visual computing areas and use game technology as a way to better teach, better internalize, help our students better internalize these concepts. So that was the idea. And this was an experiment. So we designed this course. We mapped out these 3 different phases. The first focused on design. So for example, this is a drawing that students make in the very beginning of the course, computer science students. So they're not trained as artists, so they're really engineers. And this is an example of a screenshot from their final game. So they transform that raw kind of idea into this final product. And design is really at the heart of this idea. As another example, when building the game, of course, eventually it's software running on an Xbox console, but they start with cardboard and paper. So we force them really, once they have their idea, to build it with physical products. So this is one example. These are pieces students cut out, and this is a example where they were able to assemble the entire concept of their game in a playable form so that you can actually play the game with all the rules and mechanics and test it. And this iterative refinement and testing, where you have an idea, you try it out, and then you refine, is at the heart of what we're teaching. So you could really play this game, and I played it myself. Eventually, this is the version of the final product. This was a collaborative micromanagement game. So the idea, you're playing 4 people together, and you have to explore this environment collectively, collect raw ingredients like wood and iron, put it together to build tracks, and place the track onto the end of the train tracks before the train arrives. So you're all 4 working together to do that. The train gets faster and faster and faster, so you have to cooperate. And it was a really fantastic game. But what's really interesting is that cardboard version that they built incorporated every aspect of the gameplay of the final digital version. And I played the cardboard version as well as the final version. And in my mind, it's almost the same experience. So I think this is a very interesting concept where we link this physical interaction in the world to the digital version. So this was an experiment, and this video shows several other games that were developed over the years. We were trying to understand, does this work? And there were several surprises. So one surprise is that the students, really the output they could make in this course tremendously exceeded our expectations. So the quality of their work really was higher than any of us expected. And that every year, the students, they outdo each other from the previous year. So in that sense, it was a success. They really performed. But we were also interested in the educational aspect. And that also surprised us, because what we found is that it was almost like we tricked them, because the students spend so much time on this effort. And it's really about education. They're learning computer science. They're using all the skills that we teach in this collaborative effort to build a game. But in fact, more than any other course, they're kind of voluntarily putting in their time that it almost felt like we tricked them, we manipulated them, because they're having fun. So it really, what we learned is really this aspect of fun we could tap into to increase their time on task and help them better internalize the work. But many other things happened. So around this course, we started to have students that were interested in not only this course, but also performing research with us. Some of the games ended up going to competitions. So this is a recent competition in Cologne. We used the course as a way to encourage young individuals to study computer science. So this is a program where young women come, and we try to show them that computer science is amazing so that they will come to ETH. Also, our students came and said, I'd like to do my master's thesis or even my PhD. And we started performing research and publications in this field. We've made a partnership with ZDK, the Zurich University of the Arts, and eventually the art students from this university came and took the course alongside our computer science students, mixed together in teams. And that's, although we're in the same city, that's a bridge that's very rarely made. So that was an accomplishment. We became known by the Swiss games community and involved in the startup scene and connected to everything. So what was very strange is that this course that started out as really an experiment in education developed this whole ecosystem of activity. And it was a bit backwards. This is not how things normally are set up. And when I eventually took a step back and saw all the things that are going on, I realized there's much bigger potential here. And this is when I lobbied to the management of ETH and could get their support to launch the Game Technology Center. So this is a bigger effort at ETH to really take advantage of the unique way game technology can advance ETH's overall mission in research, education, and outreach. So we started a few years ago. We have a fantastic team. We're in this charming building on Universitätsstraße, on one of the floors here, where those are some pictures of the inside of our office. We're just above a beer store, so we have a deal. If we stomp 3 times on the floor, then we lower a basket from the window, they fill it up, and we pull it. So that's also a very nice aspect. But we're really exploring this idea of the role games play in education, research, and outreach. And we talked a bit about education. We also have a deep research mission. And it's really applying the concepts of advanced game technology together with analytics and machine learning to better understand human behavior. And the idea here is that, well, a game is kind of like a copy of the world. It's a world, but it's a world we build and we create. And by observing how people interact with that world and also interact with each other while they're playing, we can gain valuable insights about real human behavior to help us better understand and better address some of the world's biggest problems. And when I say kind of advanced concepts in gaming, one of the real aspects we've focused on is augmented reality and virtual reality. So these are two concepts that are very much in the focus these days. Virtual reality is where you put on goggles and you're transformed into the virtual world. Augmented reality is a little bit the opposite. That's where we take the virtual objects and we bring them into your world. So those are two of the areas we're specializing in. And I want to show you a few examples of the work we've done. And the first, to introduce the idea of augmented reality, this is something we did really as an outreach effort to try to reach young individuals and encourage them to study computer science. And sometimes it's very difficult. It's in a way easier to access adults, but if you really want to send a message to young children, it's harder. So to do this, we formed a partnership with Franz Karl Weber, which is a famous, well-known toy store in Switzerland. And we took some of our technology and augmented reality and incorporated it into their Christmas catalog that was just released a few weeks ago. I have a copy here. And the idea was really to enhance this classic experience with a layer of kind of magical digital interaction. And we brainstormed with our team as well as with the executives there. And what we did is we selected 4 different toys and enhanced the catalog by making kind of simple game vignettes surrounded by those toys. And to explain the concept, I want to show a live demo. And for that, I'll start the app. So now I'm mirroring the iPad screen on the TV. So say hello, hi, hi everybody. There we all are. So I have the catalog here, and when I view it, so we're able to recognize the catalog itself, and then we insert digital content live into the video stream. And this is the basic concept of augmented reality. We're bringing digital elements and incorporating them into the real world in this transparent way. So in this example, the concept is you're helping Fransky, who is this little bear, to find some toys. So at the bottom, there's these question marks. These represent 4 different toys that you search through the catalog, and we add some digital content. So I'll go ahead and show you some of those. So now I found one, which are these little blocks, and he's building this block set. And if I tap on the screen, I can throw some little balls of paint to change their color. And what we did is we had kind of this simple idea that I can throw balls of paint to change the color, but in fact, if you throw too many, you knock them over. So there were these 2 concepts. One is, well, you can create your own color, but also you can have this emergent play where you can, in a way, be a little destructive about throwing the paint. So that was one example. A second is here. This is a kitchen set, and I can create my own cookie. Maybe I'll make it a little wide. Add some chocolate chips and some sprinkles, and say, go ahead and he bakes my cookie and eats it. So that's a fun experience. This was my favorite, in fact. Vacuum cleaner. And here I can throw some dust or some confetti, and he will come vacuum and clean it up for me. And finally, this is a toy bicycle. And here it's actually a more challenging game where I have to tap on the screen at the right moment when these footprints come down. It's a bit like Guitar Hero, if anyone has played that. And if I do it correctly, then he will ride the bike faster and faster. It takes a little skill. And if I make a mistake, then he stops. So that was the that was the idea. Now I found all the toys, and if I come back to the cover, I see that they're unlocked. So the different toys that I found are here to decorate the cover. So that was the idea. So it's fun and playful. It's kind of this connecting this new digital concept to the traditional catalog. Just to put that down for 1 second, something I'm very proud of is that there's some instructions here in the catalog that explain the idea. And if you read it, it also says, hey, if you think this is cool, and if you enjoyed this, then consider studying computer science at ETH. So I think it's really a great message to send to the parents and to the children. I hope one day we have some kids that were inspired by this and end up coming. But there's actually another aspect to it. And I mentioned, we're also interested in research, and we incorporated kind of a first research element here too. So this is a screenshot of the game, and there's actually 2 different versions of the game. So in one version, it looks like this. In a second version, there's a very minor difference. And you'll see it just up here when I advance the slide. So the minor difference is, in one version, you play the game just as you saw. In a second version, there's a score. So as you play and interact, whatever you do, when you throw confetti, when you throw the paint, or when you ride the bicycle, whatever you do, you earn points. That's the only difference, very simple. And what we're curious about is how does this very simple difference, either there's no concept of points, or you constantly score points the more you play, how does this in fact influence the behavior of the individuals playing? So we collect anonymous statistics about the interaction with this app, and we're now trying to understand what role this plays. So this is also a research element that's connected to the game itself. Now, this is one example where we had this outreach effort to reach young people, inspire them about technology, also with this research component. Another aspect, and one thing that I find most interesting is the aspect of creativity. And another one of our major efforts is in the space of what we call augmented creativity. And the idea is that, well, creative play, where you're interacting with your environment in a playful, creative way, but this is an important part of childhood. And there's a risk, in fact, because we have so much amazing digital content that's just ready for consumption, that children become more passive about this creative interaction, and they just become consumers of content, and they lose that kind of direct, playful interaction with their environment. So this idea of augmented creativity was really taking some of the technology you've just seen and applying it in this field where we use that technology to redirect attention to classic creative endeavors. So that's the overall concept. And I want to demonstrate that also with an app. And I'm going to switch to this. So this is another demo we put together. I'll again activate the camera. And we again have our wonderful audience. Amazing. So coloring is one of childhood's earliest creative activities. I have a coloring book page here. So this is one that we made ourselves. But we enhanced this with the same augmented reality technology that you saw with the catalog. So the system recognizes the line art that's printed on the page and displays this digital version of the character. That's similar to before, but here the goal is really different. So right now she's blank because we haven't colored her. But I'm gonna go ahead and take one of my markers. It's coming soon. Take one of my markers. I'll do a quick coloring job here. Maybe add a few circles. Okay. So now I did a quick pattern on her dress, and when I tap the screen, the system captures the texture that I just colored and applies it to the digital character. That's the overall concept. As I understand, we have an artist in the audience today who went ahead and colored a version for us. So let's see her creation. And there it is. Oh my gosh. Yo. This is the best one we've ever had. So wonderful. Very beautiful. And in fact, I went ahead and colored one myself before you arrived, so I can also show off my artistic skills. And if you look at the dress, what's on the front of her dress is captured identically, but if I rotate her around, we also have an algorithm that invents what I might have colored on the back based on what's on the front. That was part of the research, the technical research of this work. Now, coloring books often have activities, so we explored that space as well. So this is a maze where the system validates that I solved the maze correctly and then sends this character walking along the path from the start to the finish. And when he reaches the goal, he does a little dance. We also tried circle the word puzzles. So here it validates that I circled the words properly and then displays digital versions of the words that were circled. So those are some initial examples we tried. But we also experimented with different creative modalities or different creative experiences. One of those we looked at was the experience of visiting an art museum. And this is culturally very important. Museums are very important. But for some young individuals, going to a museum can be quite boring. So looking at old paintings of people you don't know can be very boring. So we explored how can this idea of augmented reality contribute in that setting also. And I'm gonna demonstrate that. I brought a painting with me. We call this a Picasso. It's not actually, the first version was a Picasso self-portrait, but we learned that there's rights issues about using those, so we created our own Picasso, let's say. So you can look on my screen, or it's mirrored here too. So here, when I view this painting, what's special is because this is our app, we can do some magical things. So if I tap on the screen, I can throw these balls of color and recolor the painting. Or I can swipe to give him a different hairstyle. Let's see, what's funny? That's pretty funny. I can move the nose up and down, or pinch to change or rotate the eyes. And I would say with this new look, he's a very happy man. So you can imagine also, if you can interact with this art in this way, you internalize that experience better, this kind of playful playful interaction. And also maybe when you leave the museum, you take home a postcard that represents your creation and not only the original version made by the artist. So this is one. This was an initial example we made, and we're now exploring a collaboration with the princely family of Liechtenstein, who have a very large. They're essentially for hundreds of years they've been art collectors and have a very large art collection. And we had an exhibition at the Digital Tag in Vaduz, where we showed some advances of this technology using the classic paintings from their collection, like Rubens and real works from the old masters. So that's a very interesting ongoing project. Now we're the Game Technology Center, so we're also interested in gaming, of course, and we explored concepts there as well. For that, we produced these stamps. So these are ink stamps. We made them in our lab with a laser cutter, and I'm gonna stamp the stamp in front of you. So here we go. This is the first one. So when I do that, the system recognizes the stamp I just created and displays the appropriate character, this robotic dinosaur. And I'll do a second one. There we go. And it finds that one too, creates a different dinosaur that corresponds to the stamp. It also recognized the color of the ink that I use, so it colored them appropriate. Then we created this simple game. So now I can battle between these two dinosaurs with this Rochambeau rock, paper, scissors game mechanics. It's kind of in the spirit of Pokemon, where you cast and call up characters to battle. But you can imagine, right now we have these two stamps, but if we had a whole set, then when two people play, once they're finished, they have this kind of decorated page that represents the history of the game that they played. So that was another example. I want to talk about one final one, which is a different creative modality, music. So music is also a core creative element, and we experimented with how we can use this technology to enhance this playful interaction with music. And for that, I have a number of cards, and the cards have different instruments and different musical styles printed on them. So this first one is the vocals, and when I view the card, we see the character, well, I'm working for my baby, and he starts performing. So he's singing the vocals now. I can bring in some other instruments. So some guitars, drums. So now I have a rock and roll version of this song, but I can instead say, what if I bring in some reggae tunes? So I have a reggae version, maybe something more classic would be nice. So here's a very different sound and a more classic element. Since we're also targeting children in many cases, we made something more playful. So this is a techno remix of that classic song. And here maybe we can add a disco ball for some nice lighting effects. And the nice thing too is that I showed many different demos, but we can even combine them together. So if I let our elephant perform, I can also add the character I colored earlier, and even our friend Picasso, so they can all perform together in this triplet. She gets a little later. Thank you. So that's a demonstration of the kind of potential to use really deep technologies in this effort to direct attention back to the real world. And that's really the message I want to send, is that there's a huge potential here in this space of game technology to make a positive impact. One note is that we've released, from ETH, we've released a public free app that includes the technology I just showed. So you can, if you'd like to try this at home, you can download the app. Everything is free. There's a link where you can print coloring book pages. You can print these cards. So you print them out, cut them with scissors, and then you can try out the things I just showed, or the catalog is in the stores. So please enjoy. If you try the app and like it, please give it a 5-star rating, because and write a comment that says, I love you, ETH, augmented creativity changed my life, thank you so much. Because we use this to argue to the bosses of this university that we're doing a good job. So thank you very much for your attention. Happy to take questions.